Hey, we are live.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
How are you guys?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Extremely peaceful today. I had a couple of days where I was so intensely aware of judgment, and
Peace
it just
after war. Silence.
totally. So if you're watching
Hmm.
this, the chances are that you could be highly aware of judgment, but keep reminding yourself that if you're a source for a different reality, source for consciousness, that you will be aware of everything that's not ease and peaceful and joy and judgment. I'm not sure about you guys. As an X-Men, someone who is extremely aware, for me, judgment destroys and kills all future. And not only does it kill my future, but it also kills my futures with other people. True. And so we're going to have a conversation tonight about saving. And I have a
And
call. Yeah.
sorry, I was just gonna want to ask, like, is it possible for you to maybe like give some information about like what is an X-Man for if anybody's like listening or coming across this first time?
So an X-Men is someone who is extreme humanoid. And humanoid is someone who's born without judgment. Okay. And they were born without judgment and extremely aware of judgment. They're the ones that are loving change. They're the ones that get bored really fast, can't stay doing the same thing for 10 years or even 2 years. And humanoids are the ones that like change, enjoy change. And we do something once and we expect everything to change. And X-Men are extreme humanoids. They're the ones extremely in communion with the planet. Animals always adore animals, and kids love being around X-Men. They're the ones with 100 tags open on their computer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books at their desk. And they're the ones who look at people who are mean and be like, why? Like, why do you choose this? Why do we have to live in a world like this? And so they're the seekers, and they're the people extremely aware of other people's projections, points of views. And so we come in with I'm like, where's the Nina in Hamburg? X-Men come in, they're a mutation of the species. They actually have superpowers for creating and changing the insanity in our world so that we can live in a world with peace and ease. But so often you haven't been educated on your abilities and capacities. Actually, not so often, mostly. There's a massive lack of education information in regard to X-Men, and their abilities are usually called disabilities.
And I actually just realized I had never asked you this. When was the first time, and how did you realize that you were an X-Man?
I went, Diva Diaz, the creator of X-Men, Access X-Men, came to stay with me in Ireland. I'm pretty sure it was 2013. It was early 2013. She just moved back from Australia. And she is a total X-Men. And I would communicate with her without speaking. And for me, I just thought it was normal because I'm like that with my kids. And so I hosted Diva for an X-Men class in a hotel called the Vienna Woods. And when I went to the class, I went because my son Dara is really X-Men, highly aware and very different and doesn't fit into this reality. And I realized in the class, oh, I have a lot of these traits. I speak and I expect people to know what's in my head. And when other people speak, I finish their sentences, and people do that with me as well. There are loads of other traits. Things have to be moving and changing for me all the time. I have a lot of energy. I get super bored if I'm not putting my energy into something that's fun and ease for me. So I would say I recognized it began to that first class in 2013 with Diva Diaz.
How was it for you, Troy?
That's a good question. I think like I actually first realized that I was an X-Men in the class that I attended with, I would say like Rachel. Like I actually didn't like thought like I was different because like the way I be was so normal for me and it was just like so natural. I thought like everybody was functioning the way I function, and actually I was getting pissed off with people because they were not like they're not. It seemed like I thought like everybody was like me, and at the same time I was so pissed off because like they were not like getting me or understanding me or
And
like
slow.
yeah, and it seemed like we couldn't work together. Like I was just like, don't you just see that possibility? Like come on, like what's wrong with you? Like and it was just creating like a lot of conflict. And I get like for me, like when I just attended to X-Men classes, I just realized like how different I was in my functionality and with my awareness, the way that I see things, the way I choose things. And when I just like actually realized like how different I am, I actually start to expect way lesser from people. And I start to like start to project way lesser to people about like what they should be choosing, how they should be, what should they choose, which I'm not a control freak at all. Like if you just like do everything the way I say and I think, like we won't have any problem. Like the world would be an easier place.
And
And
it's true.
yeah,
If people did see what you see and function the way that you function, the world actually would be a greater place. You're very pragmatic, and when someone is avoiding something, you'll be like, why are they avoiding that? That's just going to create like, unhappiness in their future. And you'll even say things to me. He said to me today, our planet is severely overpopulated. We probably require to go down to 1 billion people would be sustainable instead of 7 billion. And so I can see where it was challenging for you because other people are so caught up in what they need that they're not looking at the big picture. X-Men are always looking at like, what's going on with this world? Like, what's this all about? Why are we here? How does this work? How do our minds work? How does everything work? And so we're constantly questioning, and people, it's so funny because I had the same thing, that I thought everyone was like me. And one of the first stories I remember is being 5 years of age with my grandfather and asking him, I went to run around a garden. We were going out somewhere in his car, and it was a country area, and I went to run in the garden. He said, come out of there, you can't go in there. I'm like, why can't I go in there? He said, because they own that property. And I'm like, as in it's theirs, but you can't own the earth. And he said, they bought it with money. And I was like, yeah, but what you mean they bought it with money? And he was like, shut up. Instead of explaining to me, there's this thing on the planet Earth called money. And if you collect lots of it, you can actually buy property and buy land, And so for me, I couldn't understand how you could own a part of the earth. It was just a concept that was just like beyond my, it was just, and for me now I look at, wow, that was such a different perspective,
yeah.
Frida, when did you recognize that you were an X-Men?
Actually, in one of your calls, I think you did a free one last year, and you were reading the list. There's a beautiful book called Would You Teach a Fish to Climb a Tree? It's amazing. Highly recommended. Yes. And there's a list in there, which is like, so like, and you read the list, like, for example, you want to read some?
Yeah, let me find it. It's so funny. Every time I read it, it makes me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
So they're all traits. Yeah.
Yeah. You read these things, like, and I was like, oh yeah, that reads. Okay, yeah, I see that in myself. Okay. And then you were like, okay, so like if any of these read with you, you might be an X-Men too. Yeah. I don't have autism. I always bought this point of view that you had to have autism or ADHD as a diagnosis to be an X-Men. And that was the first time actually where I was like, oh, okay. I just pretended to be normal very well for all my life. So I never had any diagnoses or anything. And it's actually a beautiful gift to know that I'm actually different than the things I chose back then, because I'm really good at pretending to be normal. You know?
Yeah.
It's really liberating to not have to do this anymore. Like,
oh, totally. I have the list. I can read a couple of things. I would say the big one for me is, do you think faster than you can speak? It's like a billion things going through my head, and it takes so much time for them to get to hear that I have you ever known ahead of time what was going to happen and then it did? Yes. Okay. When you were in school, did your teachers write on your report card, doesn't live up to her full potential or doesn't finish when he starts, has difficulty focusing and concentrating? Yeah. Has anyone ever called you weird? Okay. Have you ever tried desperately to fit in and then given up and resigned yourself to a life of being the one who laughs at the wrong time, makes the comment that slices a group, and dresses inappropriately, even though it turns out that you are the envy of everyone who wanted to dress like you but didn't have the courage to wear it? Yeah. And so these are beautiful. Do you judge yourself unrelentingly for being so different? And do you go crazy from boredom unless you're in motion, learning new things and creating beyond what's deemed acceptable? Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to add, like with the X-Men, I get like it could like create some, I'm gonna say like kind of like a separation, like that person is X-Men, or I'm not an X-Men, or like X-Men means this, but it's actually like for me, like the way I see it is more like coming from the place of like getting like more information about like how you function and actually how extremely aware you are, because like I would just wake up like and I would be aware of so much insanity, and because I was not actually willing to acknowledge like how aware I am, I would just assume that must be me because I actually can perceive that like so dynamically. I would just, there was like no separation between me and like what I am aware of. And that was like one of the things like I remember, it was like one of the, I think it was like one of the X-Men classes that I attended with Rachel, and I was actually trying to like separate from what I'm aware of in a way, like actually if I can eventually separate from that, I would be able to not experience that much intensity or insanity, and I won't be aware of that. It didn't. And I just realized like the more that I was actually trying to separate from that, it was affecting me way more. And I remembered Rachel just like tell me like what if like you don't separate it from it, but like what you can actually be in communion with it. And like for me, like just I'm gonna say like that was like one of the first time that I just realized I can actually like be with the insanity without like buying that's me, and I can still choose what works for me. And like that was one of the most amazing gifts that I got from X-Men class. And attending like a couple of classes, it just gave me that space that I can actually be myself without making me wrong, and actually without making anybody else around me wrong for what they choose. And that was one of the classes that Rachel is going to facilitate. It's going to be like a 2-part teleseries, Access X-Men, giving up, saving, protecting, and helping. And actually I would love to ask like Rachel, like I know like you actually had like some challenging times, especially around like your family, and like how like you, because I get like every one of us, like, and for probably most of the people are listening, we just care so much that we want to like take care of the people that around us, or we want to like save them. We want them to be in a better situation. We want them to see the possibilities and choose something greater. So like how actually you start to change that and choose something different in your life?
It's so funny. I would say that I'm recovering jumping in to save people. And one of the things that I had to look at is it was a great way of distracting me from myself. It was, and I didn't even know that I was distracted with other people's needs, wants, desires. Like, first of all, it took me a while to really get present with, oh my goodness me, I've been raised to fulfill other people's needs, wants, desires. I'm very good at it.
Really?
You can just think
Genius.
I'll put it right down in front of you, you know? And so I had, instead of looking at it as a wrongness, I really had to turn it from the place to wrongness as strongness, being aware of what people require instead of jumping in to save them is very, very, very different. And because, and I'm going to use this as my like justification before I got aware and started to change, because I could do things very fast and deliver very fast, you know, and I was brilliant at solutions. It was very quick for me to jump in and deliver because I could see what was required to change something. And so this was me using my ability against me, though, because my whole life was about sorting other people's problems and being the problem solver. Instead of now, first of all, if I'm trying to save someone, I've decided that they're incapable of swimming. I'm not like, you know, that saying of teach, give a man a fish, he'll get fed for today, but teach him to fish and he'll be, able to get fish forever, you know? And so I I had to recognize that I'm not superior than others, that I actually, by jumping in, is not allowing them to grow. And actually, when I started to stop jumping in and change the saving to getting present with, hey, would you like me to do something for you? You know, can I contribute to you? Is there something that I can bring to this? When I started to function from that place, you know what? It changed my life dramatically because people would then receive it. Can I do something for you? No, I'm good. Okay. Energetically, as an X-Men, I'm already, contributing energy because we are space. We are energy, space, and consciousness. And we seem to refuse that we're a source for consciousness as long as we're judging ourselves. And so I had to recognize that one of my biggest and greatest capacities was the ability to know when someone did require support or contribution, and then not to jump in and take away something because I've decided they can't handle it and I can, and I was really good at that. But to support them to know that, hey, I'm here, you've got this, you've got to be able to handle and deal with your life, and I can contribute. And then I'm respecting the other person. I'm respecting that they're capable of handling their pain, suffering, whatever it is. They're capable of creating their life. And it's far more, I was exhausted physically from giving. Like I gave so much that I was just like exhausted. It didn't work for my body. And now I can actually gift without having resentment, or I'm always tired, I'm exhausted, I'm fed up with giving to everyone. Why is this always me? Blah, 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 and then saving and wanting to be saved. And so this has revolutionized my relationships, particularly because I have 3 kids, and also as a facilitator, because people don't want you to jump in and save them. They have to reject you actually when you try to save them. Whereas if you be with people and you respect that they're capable of handling what shows up, the universe never gives us what we can't handle. But that's the biggest thing for X-Men. They've got so much strength, they can handle a lot. And then it's to receive support and caring and nurturing, I would say that's a massive strength. That's different from need. Hey, I require some support with this. Can you support me? It's very different.
Yeah, and it's huge. I just want to acknowledge that it's huge. It's not like a little topic that like I get it required like a lot of, like as Rachel was talking, like for me it's the same, like it's something that I constantly require to work on, to not to go to autoresponder of let me save you, let me bring you a different possibility, or let me take you out of the wherever you are, and just like really being with that person and willing to acknowledge like what they're choosing, and being there from that space of no like interesting point of view, not making them right and not making them wrong, which is for me is one of the most beautiful gift that anybody can give for me. So yeah.
You know, and the other thing as well about X-Men, they're so connected to the universe and to consciousness. And we actually have no loss, but we're brainwashed to believe that we're going to lack, there's not enough, or I'm not enough. And people, like I see X-Men get so stressed because they magnify viewpoints that are not theirs, so that they can be exposed because it's not actually congruent with what they be. And so I see so many of them go into a point of view like there's not enough or there won't be enough. And that actually is not true. It's not true. There's plenty of resources. There's always more. That's lighter for X-Men. There's always more resources. There's always more of everything. And would you ever have to save anyone if you knew that there's always more for them as well? What if we could like change the way we be in relationship with that just one flick of the way that we approach our relationships, or with money, or whatever it is, that the person, me looking at Frida, there's always more, and I would support you in knowing that you can create whatever it is you desire to have, because most of us have been brainwashed out of our capacities into believing there's lack and loss and not enough, which aren't true energies of the universe.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up the relationship, because in this reality, relationships are based on you save me and I save you, or, you know, I need to be saved, you will save me. And what else is possible if we don't have that? I mean, that's so much cooler. Like, that makes me so excited to know there's another possibility instead of this, oh my God, I need you, or, oh, why don't you need me? You know, that's so dramatic. But what you just described is such a space where it's just like, hey, let's just grow together and be greater because we're creating something.
Yeah. And if you come up against something that's challenging, well, what can I be to support you? And I gotta be willing to be aware of what you can receive from me, you know?
Which is another big topic. So there's a lot. There's like so much to go into. Like I get like that's why Rachel is choose to do this series. It's going to start on 29th of October, 8 p.m. Central European Time. And the other call is going to be on 31st of October. So if you like to come on and join and explore this topic and actually get to ask your questions, like for me, like listening other people's questions is usually a massive contribution as well, because like when I listen them, I just realize in different parts of my life, like where I am doing it, and it's just opening up a lot of space and ease for me to choose a different possibility. So if you are looking to join, like I think someone just popped the link in the chat. Sinam, thank you so much.
Hey, hi.
And the conversation that I get like we had so far, like had a lot of tools as well. So I will highly recommend to everybody to listen again and again and again. And how does it get any better? Is there anything that you ladies would like to add before we finish?
I would say the big thing for me is if you decide that you can't save someone, do you then reject you and reject them? And instead of that, what if you could be present? The greatest gift you could be as an X-Men is to be present with someone and not have to take away anything and be there and be you.
Boom.
Mm.
I'll just get any better.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Thanks so much, Frida.
For your
Thanks so
time,
much for
guys.
everybody who's watching.
I love our
Bye.
conversation. Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.